Well, hey, friends, it is TexAgs Rewind presented by Yeti. Billy Liucci to my left. I'm David Nuno. Busy show today. Unfortunately, a rough baseball weekend, Billy.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 to at Auburn. They won 2 out of 3 against Auburn. 2 out of 3 at home to Bama. Damn, you let those Bama bats wake up and coincided with the A&M bats not being able to get it done against a good pitching staff. Look, you knew we talked about it. You were going to run into a hot team. The Aggies were going to have to be at their best this weekend to win 2 out of 3 and really, in this league, hold serve. They were certainly not at their best. It's crazy in the SEC this year, Nuno.
Yeah.
They were at their best last weekend against one of the elite teams in this conference. They're going to have to be at their best next weekend against one of the 2 bottom teams in the conference. But it's Mississippi State in Starkville. If A&M, doesn't figure out what they were doing right a week ago and bring that to Starkville, they probably miss out on the postseason. If they go and play their A game, I think we're talking about what do they need to do in Hoover to maintain their status in the field. Yep.
So we talked about that. We had Schloss on the program. We also had Gerrod Chadwell on the show to talk about the NCAAs coming up as well. They're leaving for Scottsdale this week. We had Billy on the program, and also with OB, we projected the Aggies offense when it comes to football, kind of went through all the position groups, that and more. TexAgs Rewind. So the next one I found quite interesting, OB, because I think if you're talking about just 3 wide receivers, we're talking about wide receiver here, you can make 1,000 arguments, I feel, for any way, shape, or form. If they go 4, then it's an easy one, yeah. And it's going to depend on the game plan, I would assume.
Yeah. When we talked about defense last week, the big brain tester was, hey, name your starting 4 defensive linemen, and then you start thinking of all the guys that
I mentioned one guy. You're like, but what about this guy? You're like, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, you say, all right, if it's 3 starting receivers, who are they? Well, Jimbo's already said Noah Thomas is going to be a starter. Okay. Well, Evan Stewart is.
And Anais Smith came back.
Yeah,
and he was your best offensive player.
Yeah, but did you see what Moose was doing?
Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do with Moose?
See, and then you got guys coming in. You got a guy coming in that averaged 22 yards a carry, a catch, 20 yards a catch.
I think in many positions, not just wide receiver. Just because you start the game doesn't mean. Just because you don't start the game, I should say, doesn't mean you're not going to get your 10, 12 catches or whatever it may be.
And yet, you still want to. There's a pride element. The guy want to be a starter. The point there is, I think A&M is loaded at receiver. I think A&M's receiving group is as good. I'm not saying better, but as good as anybody in the SEC.
And by the way, we didn't even mention the freshmen who eventually are going to work their way in.
I like them.
I like them a lot. I thought they looked good in the spring game.
They did. Tease.
Micah Tease and Raymond Cottrell.
Cottrell, yeah. You don't even talk about Jalen Preston coming back.
Dependable.
The last time I saw him in Baton Rouge, he dang near won the game for A&M.
Was it 2 touchdowns in that
game? 2
2
touchdowns, and one of them, they gave him the lead. He catches it and is breaking tackles and avoiding guys and angling all the way across the field to make a touchdown. It was an amazing play, and unfortunately A&M couldn't close it out.
I'm a big believer in starting pitching. I think the game starts there. When we finished the game on Friday, I was very, I didn't think the chances of playing 2 more games were very high. I thought Will had been pitching better than wanting or really anybody, and didn't want to bring Lampion back on that shorter rest. So I said if there's one more game to pitch, Will had 2 somewhat more competitive starts than the other guys. And so let's run Will out there, and for whatever reason, he gives up a single, hits the guy, and gets a 3-run homer. And then their guy pitched, McMillan pitched really well. I don't, when you define playing bad, to me, playing bad is free bases and making errors all over the field. And the hitting's going to come and go, man. It's just going to come and go. And I thought McMillan had a lot to do with that. We popped a ton of balls up on Saturday. That could be an example of somebody just trying to do too much instead of just staying on the baseball like we have really for the last year and a half. But I thought we just got outplayed, playing bad is one thing, losing is another. And if you want to describe playing bad as not pitching well and free bases and stuff like that, and then you're also, when a game gets to a point where you feel like the other team has control of the game, then, there are times like last night with 2 outs and a runner on in the 9th inning or 8th inning. I'm just trying to find a right-handed pitcher that could come out of the bullpen and at least get a right-handed hitter out.
If you'd have told me sitting here before that, hey, you guys are going to advance, it'd been a lot less stressful week for me. Just it's the most stressful week out of the year. You can throw every record out of the book of what you've done up to that point. You've got to be one of 5 teams that advance, and once you get there, the scoreboard's 0-0, and everybody's fighting for a week to win a national championship.
The last day, a little bit of a sloppy start, but then you got hot.
Yeah, it was interesting. Probably the whole week was a tale of 2 nines. We didn't play the front 9 very well at all. And people would say, well, the back 9's easier. Well, I don't think so in a way. I mean, maybe it has more gettable holes, but there's still cactus on every side and mesquite trees and everything else. Like, you still have to hit good shots. But our group is resilient. They played the back 9 really well. I mean, the back 9 on Tuesday, you could obviously say was what punched our ticket. But then they went and followed it up with a pretty good back 9 on Wednesday that stopped the bleeding and helped us advance pretty comfortably.
Is this fair? Mm-hmm. I've seen you in here happier than this.
Mm-hmm.
You're not disappointed. It's focus. It's like, this is maybe what we needed to go into. Is that a fair thing?
For sure. The group is our group is a little pissed off. They're excited. Don't get me wrong, but it's crazy. The tale of 2 years of last year, everybody was over the moon. We were sitting there watching, hoping somebody missed a putt for us to avoid a playoff and to go. And now it's like, I mentioned this morning, it's crazy how the standard has changed in the matter of 2 years, where I want to say it's almost just a given that we were going to go or expected to go. I mean, getting to the national championship is hard, but they weren't satisfied with getting third or tying for third. They're disappointed in their performance. They wanted to win, but I think that's good. I think it's led to focus this week and working on things that we want to work on. But yeah, everybody's dialed in. And as I said before, we couldn't wait to get to San Antonio. We can't wait to get to Arizona and get to work.
Every sport except volleyball, I think it's not even a comparison. And somebody could point out an exception, but you guys get the point. 90% of the sports, it's not even comparable. The week to week, the game to game grind, and so
What do you think that
the
is?
gap between the top 4 teams in a conference and number 8 to 12. There's always a couple bottom feeders. The top 4 and 8 to 12 in a lot of these sports, it's so small. What did Mississippi State finish in the league in basketball? What did Arkansas finish? And A&M went out to Mississippi State and they got handled pretty good. And we're playing great basketball at the time. Bama almost loses to South Carolina. South Carolina goes up and beats Kentucky. The gap is so small that if you have real deficiencies, which A&M does on the pitching staff, the hitting numbers are pretty woeful too throughout the conference. But I also think A&M was so miserable before league play started that they really dug themselves a hole that they really can't get out of. I'd like to see those numbers in SEC games only. I think they'd improve a little.
Right.
They're not the juggernaut team at the plate that they were last year, not even close. But I think that's a little misleading. The pitching, though, you can't have that glaring of an Achilles heel and run through this gauntlet.
Can't.
So the other thing I'll say, and Bronny and I talked, I disagree with him saying this result was astonishing. Surprising, yes. Disappointing, yes. But astonishing for everything I just said. No, like I'd say reserve judgment here. If they went and got swept in Starkville and finished, what are they right now, 12 and 15?
Mm-hmm.
If they finished 12 and 18 in the league, I'd say, yeah, it's pretty astonishing. But they could win 2 out of 3, go 14 and 16, make the tournament. I don't think them struggling to get in the tournament because of how tough the conference is. You'd really be saying it's astonishing that our pitching staff struggled.
What? Close out? All right.
We weren't doing that anymore.
We brought it back.
Go ahead.
You want me to do it or you want to do it?
Do it.
No, you do it.
You do it. Hit the
Instead.
button, sign up. Why'd we bring it back? Tell your friends.
People
subscribe.
didn't know what to do. When they finished the video, they're like, well, they needed direction. So now we tell them.
Okay, they needed you to say, close, this is it.
This is
Show
it. And
over.
also do this
Okay.
to help promote the brand. See ya.
There you go.